Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you right here is like the Dreamweaver. It's like for CC right here. Talk about right here. Talk about the Dreamweaver program, and I think that this is, I don't know if it's for a H for HTML. It's like if it's for the higher edition, for like HX TML or something like that. But anyway, but this right here talks about for Dreamweaver. Whenever I first started using this program, I was thinking about a number of things. One of those was about as to where that I'm sure most of us have seen from the postings I had worked talking about for like a Adobe Photoshop, and as well as for InDesign, or like Illustrator. But then you have right here is a Dreamweaver, and you see right here are like what I talked about from Matthew. It's like from the Dreamweaver Matthew that you have right here, like these what you call these anchors, I guess. From the other video I talked about, it's like for like the brackets, but like almost anything on the keyboard, that more likely that we would think that like you had seen them, but then you're like weren't sure if they got a specific name or not. But I might get like that the punctuations, as well as the stars, icon, simple underscores, but and you also have the equals and plus. So but on your hand, that the one question I did have is like, why is the program called Dreamweaver? And more likely though that while I had a few practices with it, I was also thinking about necessarily to where that that getting on the program, and like wondering like with anybody that they may learn to where, especially this right here, is that if we were to be buying the program, and let's just say that the software program that basically mentions is to where that for Dreamweaver that you can actually create a website. It's basically a program to where you have where you can actually design, and then it's like if you could manipulate that you can also copy, or so make make a like a you can create document files based on, say, on an actual website for the World Wide Web. And while I was working this, I was also thinking about it to where that for like Dreamweaver that wondering to where, why is it called Dreamweaver? Well, that I guess we may think is to where it's all about is to where the work about the imagination, to where giving you that control to where if you want to make and create redesign a website, then you would be able to go to this program right here and then create an HTML site, and then be able to do like a enter any type of a direct coding, just to be able to any settings that go onto a website. And you see right here is this picture right here. This right here will be a Photoshop example right here, but I'm using right here for Dreamweaver. So you have right here are like I say, it's the closing marks, and as well as the open and closing tabs right here, as well as for the anchors. So you have right here's the body, and there's the HTML, and then as well as the heading. So this right here, I guess, would be an example of an unfinished website. So if we look at right here, is a split screen right here. This right here will be some of my college, these photos right here whenever I was young, and then knowing about you for my college courses also. And think about right here is like a senior picture right here. And then if most of us have seen from the ways like for like how to control for that anybody who's want to access the websites from any type of device, if it's going to be maybe a smartphone or maybe a tablet or some sort. So thinking about it's like for Dreamweaver that whenever we first were introduced to it, it was like, yeah, not really like one of those Lego sets to where you buy a set of Legos and you get different pieces and stuff, and you try to connect them, and thinking about it, it comes with different pieces, and you don't know what it is until you stare at it for a few seconds, whichever it is. But and you have right here is the live view right here of the site. So right now it just contains a picture right here. So right here is I just have a picture, but know about for Dreamweaver though that I'm sure with anybody that whenever they first use it, that whenever they first open up the program and they see all this stuff here, and sometimes that I guess you can maybe look at it to where that the live view basically means is to where that this is this is the page that the audiences will be looking at whenever the work is done. So if you're going to be designing a website and thinking that, oh yeah, you want to go ahead and include, like, this is supposed to be like what you call a website, based on, would say, for seniors, for fundraisers or anything like that, or maybe for charities or some sort like that, or maybe to for like volunteer work or something like that, maybe related to business or something like that. That we may think necessarily to where you have right here is the picture right here is and right here in my Photoshop, and it took me a little bit just to be able to figure this out to where that to be able to use some of my pictures right here just to be able to insert them into Dreamweaver, and I know that you may have seen it before to where that any video, any source of media, I'm sure that could be used as well. But on your hand too, that it took me a while to figure this out, but still, that I kept thinking about necessarily to where, hey, that am I going to keep going to where just keep studying and knowing about on my early that we pretty much know the difference between what it calls maybe a pair of pliers or a wrench or maybe a screwdriver, maybe a hammer or something like that. But a few sets of tools that more likely they can do the job. And the way I think about it, though, is like really that you look at this program right here, and then you go through these codes here. So these codes are basically, if you want to call it, like the controls. And with these controls, that they are basically to where that, yeah, that the way that the tools are used, if you were to be using a number of tools, one of those will be is to where you can actually between the drill bits, and as well as the screwdrivers, as well as that any other type of changing swatches or any type of other type of heads that go on a drill bits, those all those other pieces to a toolkit. But basically that you have right here are, like, if we want to call these maybe like, say, program like buttons to it. It's like where that you would you would be able to type up any source of information, and one of those would be is to where that you have anchor for this right here for page, and then a page right here, and then a page just to close. So you have right here is for page, for P right there. So like, and then you also have like for auto type. So I know, like when I mentioned from the other from the other posting, is to where that any sorts of a Dreamweaver work. But on the other hand, that I'm like, yeah, if I could maybe spend a couple of hours more on this, maybe try to figure it out, and I'm like, yeah, that you try to get adjusted to it, and I know back whenever I was in school that I could probably say that 1 hour maybe per day is maybe all what I would have just to be able to figure it out all this sources out, like if it's going to be HTML or if it's going to be style CSS or something like that, for Dreamweaver. But on the other hand, that I'm like, yeah, for 1 hour per day or so, maybe of a total of 7 weeks, and then maybe I'll be able to figure out something about how something works and solve any problems or so. But you see right here is this senior, if you want to call it like maybe like a collage, like you have right here is these different pictures right here of me right here whenever I was young. So whenever I first opened up Dreamweaver, I was also thinking about necessarily to where I'm like, what the, like, that because it was not really like Photoshop. I'm like, which I know that with I know Dreamweaver, that if you had, like, if you were updating your files, and you will be able to change, if you wanted to do any changes to Dreamweaver, you'll be open those up, and then that I know of it, as long as you have, like, what you call the original files, or if any of those can be updated as well in the folders. So that knowing about the studies about how programs work, from how internet servers work, and knowing that from the files whenever they're saved on an operating system and compared to whenever they go live, and I know, like with anybody, that they may warrant to where that whenever you're first introduced to Dreamweaver, that what's the first thing that you're going to maybe want to discover about it is to where that the codes. So it's not really like what you call the tape and glue. The tape and glue, you just want to tape it. You just want to make something quick. If you want to use like a picture or so, or maybe journal, you want to write in a journal or so, or maybe write a paper or two, you just want to look at a few words. But on the other hand, the basic controls tool I say for Dreamweaver though, that you say it could be found on a keyboard. But the way I think about though is like really that like with anybody, if they're going to be using like maybe a Mac or other sources of addition, that you're like Warren to where that yeah that you know, make it so easier just to kind of locate the buttons that are about right here, and then you go ahead and type in whatever information that you have saved on file, if it's going to be a JPEG or something like that, or if it's going to be a GIF or you know any other type of file, you know, thumbnail file like that. But this right here will be an example right here. I can go ahead and highlight this right here. This right here will be an example right here of a file that I have saved on my on my system on file, and I'm using it right here for Dreamweaver. So you have right here is for width is 792. Yeah, and then height is for 720. It's like for alt, and so this right here would be like see the basic measurement to where that between height and width. And I know, like with anybody, that you may not want to have the whole picture take up the whole screen, but before that the picture, before the website is put together and then finished, that this basically right here is what you would likely see is that whenever starting a new project it is, and then like any type any source of work that you're working on. So whenever I was first seeing this, I was also thinking about you really. Why is it called Dreamweaver? Basically a program to where yeah you can really you design a website for what you like, if it's going to be for a certain company or a business, and then you post it up live for on the World Wide Web, so that way other viewers would be able to, other clients or so would be able to see the work for like if you're going to be working for a business and they want you to put together a site you really feel like Dreamweaver, and you have right here is like for a split. So this right here will be like you'll be able to look at the codes, and as well as look right here's the live screen right here. So like with anybody that may want to where type in a few things, but on your hand I'm going to try to limit this video right here to about 14 minutes or so. But anyway, but yeah, that's one thing about me. I try to see to where I can answer my own questions, and then think about it as like really why is it called Dreamweaver? And like with anything is that I kept thinking about, well, Dreamweaver. I'm like that sounds more like if you want to call it maybe a library, like a. And then I guess if you want to call it like maybe a definition for like maybe a encyclopedia or a library, to where you're able to create a website for other people to be able to research and then understand, is that knowing for whenever you do graduate and whenever you do get promoted on a job, you would be able to look at some source of information and the other type of data that is provided. So, and I know that with this type of work right here, which I know that not everybody would probably like to mess with, like with me though, that this right here would be the look I would have on my face right here, is to where that yeah that you're trying to solve a puzzle, but then thinking that you're going to go ahead and maybe constantly spend about maybe 3 or 4 hours maybe on the weekend trying to figure it out, and you're like Warren to where that just like if you would be using tape and glue just to glue the puzzle pieces together, and sometimes it takes up to 4 or 5 hours for the glue to dry. So sometimes it, like with updates, I don't think updates to Dreamweaver along with other files are going to take 5 hours to update. But on the other hand, too, that it may take up to 5 hours or so just to be able to figure out the basics about for how HTML and style CSS files work. So you have say a variety of choices, and one of those choices would be is to where that yeah just to kind of keep notes to where that gradually learning, and I know I'm gradually learning the software program as well, and I know that was one of my first questions as to why is it called Dreamweaver compared to Photoshop and compared to Illustrator and InDesign and other Adobe programs, and they're associated. But you have right here is like with my picture right here, and like with anybody that they may want to where Dreamweaver to them may sound like what you call maybe a site where you can connect maybe with other professionals or so. But the way I think about it, though, is like really that you first introduced to Dreamweaver, and then that you don't really expect to think about is to where that you got all these pieces, and you got right here is it's like a document form right here, like for this right here, like the HTML so the HTML document, as well as for like any other type of document that you're working on. And like with anybody, that they thought maybe the regular basic math on the calculator was pretty difficult, because you are working with, sometimes it's a variety of different numbers, different codes, and different digits. But if we were to use like maybe like for engineering as examples, to where that this program, until you include like any type of a source of information, like websites or anything like that that connect, if they're going to be including maybe any JPEG images or anything like that, and you have right here's the closing tab. So yeah, let's just say that if this was like a website right here, and anybody were to click on one of these right here, and then that more likely it may not do too much or may not do nothing at all. And one of those will be to where that it says on here that that tab was closed and it started up a new page, or it's like if you want to add an additional page, it's like to add the anchors right there. But anyway, but there you have it. Talk about right here is like here for the senior right here is like this right here would be if I want to call it like something about for seniors that talk about the future by the year 2018, and knowing about if my work is going to maybe be broadcast on any websites, anybody that may warrant to where to find look me up and like warrant to where hey that that we seen that work, especially in like warrant to where any type of problems that you may be wondering about is that. But I don't know, to me, if anybody that wonders to where that their first question more likely would have been is to where that between how do you get Dreamweaver to run, between how do you get it to work, how do you work all these controls and stuff. So whenever I was in school, then I could probably say that working with the colors and then the shapes was one of my favorite parts, and it's like the freehand drawing. But then this right here was like, okay, that for whatever reason, was it that this a lot of this reminds me of like what you call maybe taking down attendance, as well as other sort of sources of work. And I know that a lot of this stuff is related to like computer programming, so any source of engineering or any type of coding operation or anything like that, whenever you're looking at the coding part of it, then you're like Warren to where hey, that I don't understand a lot of this stuff. So sometimes that whenever I look at this, it kind of reminds me of documents that you may have seen, that maybe if there's like an error report, and I know like most of us had that experience to where that if a computer suddenly stops working, or there's like an error report that is automatically created by the operating system, that it would show up as like a message, kind of like that right there, to it would show a number of codes and error report messages or anything like that. But anyway, but you got right there is a split, and then you have right here's the live view right here. So I don't have anything written because of course it's just contains the image right here. But you have right here are some examples right here of like for some for a website for Dreamweaver work. And I guess maybe to answer my own question is to where, like with anybody's, to where that why is it called Dreamweaver? For to be able to create a website based on the information for what you learned and then what you have and what you're able to manage, just to put together to create a website for anybody who wants to look up information about you or about a business or some sort. So leaving the person in charge of any data that they may have, as to where you're actually creating a website for that. So, which I think it's pretty neat. I'm like, it's to me that like with anybody that I would maybe say that it's, I guess maybe it's best maybe to watch a few training videos, and as well as that maybe just to kind of study and experiment around with the program just a little bit. So I know like with anybody that Dreamweaver, which I know that it's it's I'm sure it's pretty expensive and on your hand that you're pretty complicated, just to use. So like with anybody that if you're used to going to the store and buying a calculator or maybe a tablet or a notebook for about less than $30 up there at the store or so, and chances are that you may not find a program like Dreamweaver for about that much. If anything, maybe it's just like what you call maybe for any type of flash drive or something like that, just for files that you're going to be using for a project of some sort. But I am sure for the program itself, it's it's about maybe between up to 600 between $600 and $700, I think, for at least for a full year or so of a license, for license, for up to 1 to 3 or so PCs. So anybody that may warrant to where you may have the program on your computer and you may look at it and you're like thinking about like right here with me right here and thinking about that would be a good screensaver. Oh yeah, this is a screensaver. But thinking about it as to where if anybody were to wonder to where about that between web designing as well as Dreamweaver and then screensavers, it's thinking about I'm like that that I don't really know all about websites, but we try not to think about as to where that screensavers, because websites that if we're going to be what you call working with the uploading as well as updating as well as posting it to the World Wide Web, we all know about as to where depending on the situation too. But on the other hand, that we're talking about is to where a lot of people around on the World Wide Web, and they are able to look at the information. So if anybody that wonders to where this is supposed to be like maybe a practice example. So thinking about as to where that any source of files that we had to work with in the You're Like Warren to where okay that this is just for practice. So that's why that it would ask you to where that you have with Dreamweaver that you would ask you to go ahead and for site source, and as well as you create you sign in as well as update. You like to select the files, like to update, and then going through this other source of settings as well, and just to be able to broadcast, just to be able to post them live on the World Wide Web. So it's basically that it's a program to where allows the information that you create to be displayed on the world sites, on the World Wide Web sites. So we may think that necessarily to where Dreamweaver, that when we're first introduced to it, is it like Facebook, or is it like what you call it's basically like for like you create a website and basically to where that your work has been added to the online library. So if we want to look at it as a library, not really like what you call is to where that you have access to maybe the paint tool or so, but on your hand, that they have a talk about for Dreamweaver, and I know that there's a few. I know that there's maybe a few other tools and other settings too to the program, and I know that more likely you could do as well. But like with anybody, that if they're going to be checking out Dreamweaver or maybe InDesign and thinking about as to where that this program right here, I'm sure they say that they would highly recommend is to use it mainly for the finished projects from other programs. If you're going to be using any source of media from like Adobe Photoshop or Illustration, or if it's going to be anything such as Illustration or so, or any other type of program, that if you're going to have any source of files that are used within other programs, if it's going to be GIFs or anything like that, any source of files or anything like that, JPEGs, that they would say is to where that make sure that they are finished before that they can be posted on the live website. So that's just a thing is to where that these pieces of the puzzle, if you want to call it, that this program right here will mainly be used for like that. This will be like say the next project, to where a lot of those projects that you were working on from previous projects, previous work data or anything like that, previous jobs, that they would suggest is to where make sure that the projects are finished, and then they say that they look good based on a requirement before that they are posted for you to be worked in Dreamweaver. So anyway, but that's basically the way I think about it, though, is like when before a project is finished, and you're like Warren to where that yeah that these are files right here that are saved on a computer, and before that they are it's like known source to be broadcasting it live, posted live or some sort, and you're like Warren to where that this right here is that have this information right here, and like with anybody that well, like anything that you might see, especially like adding right there, like for equals right there. But on your hand, that like with anybody, that whenever we're searching the World Wide Web, and we may see that to where we click on an internet site and then we see that maybe page not found or so that could maybe be a server problem or some sort. So but anyway, but there you have it. Talk about right here is like with the image right here, and then you have right here is the split, as well as for the live view. So warrant where they like with anybody that by the time you get to figure it out, I'm sure that you'll want to maybe want to I don't know if you want to call it play around with it a little bit more, but just to kind of experiment around just a little bit more with it. But I can remember that whenever I first opened up this program, that I can remember that that placing importing an image was pretty difficult there at first, because quite a few things are different about Dreamweaver compared to InDesign and compared to Illustrator, because whenever you open up Illustrator, I'm sure most of us are used to like maybe an artboard or some sort. You have right here mainly is the coding, and then as well as the index, HTML, and then you may have maybe another file like the that they it may be recommended to create about maybe two other files. One of them could be for the about HTML, and then for the index, and as well as for them for the index, and as well as for other sorts of information related to the files especially. So you're like Warren to where that whenever you look at this and then thinking about it to where that that a lot of these files that you don't really, all these settings and stuff that you don't really understand. And back when I was a kid, whenever you first look at open up a binder of some sort, and like Warren to where necessarily about that. So anyway, thanks for watching, Amy 25.